I remember when life seemed to be carved from moments of shared happiness and simple joys. Kelly and I built our world together, piece by piece, turning our house into a home filled with laughter and warmth. Our days brimmed with little victories, cooking new recipes, spending lazy Sunday mornings with our daughter Grace, and finding comfort in the routines we built. It was a life I thought was steady, reliable, and real. Yet, life is often a stranger to permanence. The cracks in our foundation began as whispers I chose to ignore. Kelly's lingering silences, the occasional distance in her eyes, things I brushed aside, convinced that time and love would mend whatever rifts had appeared. But the subtle signs turned into resounding echoes, and before I knew it, the life we had crafted so carefully unraveled before me. The room blurred as I sat on the floor, overwhelmed by exhaustion and emptiness. Not long ago, I never imagined I'd be here. Now, I could feel the carpet fibers against my palms. Kelly and I had spent so much making this room perfect. I closed my eyes, trying to clear my foggy mind. How did I end up here? Is this who I am? When I opened my eyes, I saw the large wooden bed, and memories of Kelly hit me hard. I recoiled, realizing things like this were in the past. Everything had spiraled out of control. My hands dropped, and I saw a whiskey bottle and an empty pill container. The room smelled strongly of alcohol. A bitter smile appeared, but I quickly felt panic as I thought about the letters on the nightstand. They could easily fall into the wrong hands. Nausea crept up, but I fought it off. Why did it have to end like this? I murmured. I imagined people I missed, but I knew they probably didn't feel the same. My daughter would likely hate me for what I'd become, though it seemed she already did. I couldn't bear the pain anymore. My mind was a mess. In those final moments, I saw my mistakes, but couldn't change anything. The darkness took over. Just a week ago, I was full of joy, spinning my daughter Grace around our home in Perth. She was 19, and the night before, her boyfriend John had proposed. I knew it was coming. He'd asked for my blessing, and I gave it without hesitation. Grace and John had been together since middle school. For years, Grace told us all about John's romantic gestures, including the scavenger hunt that led to his proposal in Kings Park. I twirled Grace as if she were still a child. The next morning, they shared the news in the kitchen, and my heart swelled with happiness for them. Despite their youth, I believed in their love. I truly thought they had what it took to make it. I held Grace's hand again, smiling at the engagement ring. "That's wonderful, Gracie," I said, looking at John. "You made a great choice." Kelly laughed from across the counter. At 42, she was still stunning. Brown hair, bright eyes, sun-kissed skin. We all looked at her as she responded. "You should thank me too," Kelly said, raising her wine glass. "I helped John pick her." I was surprised, and I saw John's face turn red. "Mom, that's inappropriate," Grace said. "It's okay, baby. I love it, and I know you made the final choice." The comment hung in the air, leaving me a bit embarrassed. In all our years together, I had never seen Kelly act so disrespectfully. But she had been acting strangely lately, in ways I couldn't quite pinpoint. Little things, comments, and actions that weren't like the woman I knew. Dinner was full of celebration, and after dessert, Grace and John left for their small apartment. Kelly and I snuggled in bed, but the incident with her comment lingered in my mind. Sunday morning, Kelly shocked me again, refusing any physical affection. I was stunned and took about half an hour to process it. I showered and shaved, and when I came out, Kelly was gone. She had left a note saying she was leaving. I suddenly felt angry. In all the years I'd known Kelly, she'd never treated me this way. Disrespectful. I had no idea what was happening to her. I made myself coffee and couldn't stop wondering, is she cheating on me? As I finished my coffee, I got a call from Roger, a close friend. "Hey, Bart, how's it going?" he asked cheerfully. I greeted him but stayed quiet. "Bart, something's wrong, isn't it?" he said, sensing it. I spent the next few minutes explaining. Roger laughed. "If she's cheating, there's not much you can do. Divorce is 50-50 and she doesn't work, so she'll take you for everything," he said bluntly. "That doesn't help," I shot back, irritated. "I wasn't trying to console you, just being real," he replied, still serious. "Why don't we talk about it tomorrow at work? We need to go over the Pembroke project report," he suggested. I agreed, though without much enthusiasm. Roger and I worked together. He was the program manager, I was the senior engineer. We made a good team. Sunday dragged on. Kelly came home late, slipping into bed without a word. Though she knew I was awake, the next morning she tried to be sweet. "That won't happen, Kelly," I said as I got out of bed. "Are you saying no to closeness?" she asked, incredulous. I looked at her and began dressing. "I won't touch you after you disrespected me last weekend. If you're cheating on me—" I stopped, not knowing how to finish. Kelly stepped up to me, her face close. "You'll do it, Bartholomew. You can't refuse." Her grin softened but didn't disappear. "Go back to bed. We both need to relax," she said, trying to coax me. I shook my head. "Who the hell are you? You don't understand the contempt I feel." "Well then, screw you," she snapped and went back to bed. I left the room, disgusted for the first time in 21 years of marriage. At work, I couldn't focus. My assistant Mira noticed. "Bart, are you okay? You don't seem like yourself," she asked, concerned. Mira had worked with me for 10 years. She had a tough past, escaping an abusive relationship with her ex and a young daughter. Despite her beauty, Mira was sharp and tough. People who underestimated her learned the hard way. I debated telling her about Kelly, then decided to. As I spoke, Mira's expression shifted from concern to anger. "I don't know what to do, Mira. If she's cheating, I never thought this would happen," I confessed, feeling defeated. Mira's hand rested on my shoulder, an unusual gesture. I looked into her sympathetic eyes. "Well, first you need to focus on the Pembroke meeting," she said. "There's a concern about the pipes and concrete in the structure." I snapped back to work. "Why is this just now being mentioned? Roger didn't tell me anything," I asked, my mind turning to the technical details. Mira looked uneasy. "I don't know why it wasn't brought up earlier, but I just saw the agenda and it's worrying." A moment later, Roger popped into my office. "You ready, buddy?" he asked with a smile. "Roger, what's going on with the pipes and concrete at the Pembroke project?" I asked, trying to prepare for the meeting. He waved it off. "Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. I like to know these things before meeting the client," I replied. "It'll be fine, Bart. We'll figure it out," he said dismissively. The meeting was a trap. When we entered, the Pembroke owners were already there. They were usually friendly, but as I spoke, their expressions turned darker. Peter, the CEO, asked, "What about the extra concrete and pipes in the Northeast?" I looked at Roger, but he didn't say anything. "I'll check on it." I hadn't heard about cost overruns, but reports from last week said everything was on track. Peter's frown deepened. "Then why did I sign off on over $200,000 in additional costs for concrete and pipes?" I looked at Roger again, unsure how to respond. He stood up, holding a folder. "Gentlemen, if you could give us a moment, we'll figure this out," he said. "Bart, let's step out for a minute." We went into another room where our boss, Clarence, was waiting. "What did they say?" Clarence asked. Roger quickly spoke up, handing Clarence the folder. "They asked about the missing materials." Clarence looked at me, and for the first time I saw anger in his eyes. "What do you have to say, Bartholomew?" he spat. I was shocked. "I don't know what to say. The reports I got said everything was on track." "I didn't approve those expenses," I replied, feeling the situation slip out of control. Clarence opened the folder. "So this is your version?" he said firmly. "Sir?" I asked, confused. I glanced at Roger, who was serious. "Bartholomew, I have documents here for $206,000, and the payments were made to an account in your name. After all these years, is this how you repay me?" Clarence shouted. The meeting turned into a verbal attack. Neither he nor Roger wanted to hear my side. They brought in HR and I was fired for fraud. Clarence said he was involving the police and Myra was let go too because of her proximity to me. As I was escorted out with my things, I saw Roger grinning. When I wasn't looking, I caught Mira outside, crying by her car with security watching us. "Mira, are you okay?" I asked. She turned sharply. "You bastard, Bartholomew. How could you? $200,000 in fraud. I trusted you, and you took my job," she shouted. "Mira, it wasn't me," I pleaded. "Really?" She pointed to the signed documents. "I saw your signature, Bart. How could you?" She glared at me with hatred. "And the story about Kelly? Was that a lie too? You think I didn't notice the way you look at me?" She was furious. "I hate you," she spat. "You ruined my career, and I can't get another job because of you. You lie, cheat, and steal, and now you ask me how I feel. Screw you, Bart." In all our years together, I had never heard Mira curse. Her words stunned me. Before I could respond, she slapped me hard. "You ruined my career. I can't get a reference, and now I'm tainted by your fraud. I hope it was worth it." I stood there, shocked, my cheek burning from the slap. Mira stared at me one last time before getting in her car and driving off without another word. I didn't know what to do, so I drove home and parked in the driveway. Kelly was waiting for me. "So the deceived husband comes home. Pathetic," she sneered. As I walked inside, I couldn't help but notice something strange. Kelly seemed happy, not upset or worried. "What's going on, Kelly? I didn't do this. I don't know what's happening," I said, feeling lost and confused. She grinned. "Who cares, Bart? I'm leaving you." I'd never seen such contempt in her eyes. It's over. I've been seeing someone for 6 months. He's exciting, has money, and goes places you never will, she said. As for you, you have no job, no friends, and you're probably going to prison for fraud soon. Her words stung, but she wasn't finished. Do you admit you're a loser? A cheating woman of easy virtue? I asked, anger creeping into my voice. Kelly laughed. Yes, it was all about me, and I deserve it. Haven't you noticed? It's always been about me. For a brief moment, I thought I saw sadness in her eyes, memories of the good times we had. But it passed quickly, replaced by coldness. I'm done, Bart. I'm moving on. Kelly leaned in. Make it easier on yourself. Give me the house and most of the property. You'll be in prison soon. Sign the papers and pack your stuff. You have a week before I file a restraining order. So you're staying with your new guy? I asked, feeling the full weight of the betrayal. Of course. His place is smaller, but we'll move in here once you're gone. Don't follow me, Bart, or I'll call the cops, she said, her voice icy. I sat down, defeated. Kelly noticed the red handprint on my cheek from Mira's slap earlier and smiled. Well, at least she was fired too. Maybe you should go die somewhere, Bartholomew. Then she left. I did nothing all day, not even drinking. The next day, I still didn't know what to do. I tried calling Grace, but she sent it to voicemail. After several rings, she picked up. What do you want? She asked, her voice cold. Grace, I started to explain. Leave it, Dad. She cut me off. Mom told me everything. Your cheating, the affair with your assistant, and the $200,000 you stole. You've ruined so many lives. I've never been more disappointed. I was speechless. Before I could defend myself, she continued. John and I don't want anything to do with you. You're on the news as someone the police are investigating. Stay away from us. I don't want you at my wedding unless you're in jail. If you're not, I'll find someone else to walk me down the aisle. I didn't answer, my tears falling uncontrollably. Dad, do you even realize how much you've ruined everything? She asked sharply. Goodbye, Dad. From now on, you're dead to me. Don't contact me again. And she hung up. I collapsed on the floor, sobbing. 2 days later, the police came to arrest me. They didn't ask if I did it, just where the money was, who my partners were, and how long I'd been defrauding the company. After questioning, they let me go, but told me not to leave the city, as I had to appear in court next week. I walked into the house, staring at the pictures of Kelly, Grace, and me, the art we'd bought, and the trophies Grace had earned over the years. Everything once full of meaning now felt empty. The past week was a blur. Deep down, I knew something was missing, some connection I wasn't making, but all I knew was that I was innocent. My wife left me, my daughter disowned me, I was fired, my assistant blamed me, and even my friends cut ties. The few who contacted me expressed their disappointment and asked. I never reach out again. Defeated, I entered the bedroom with no idea what to do next. As an engineer, I always solved problems, but now, I didn't even know what problem I was facing. After a shower, I ate a sandwich with stale bread and jam, which only made me feel worse. I thought I could get through this if Grace hadn't pushed me out of her life. I looked at the table. There was a packet of sleeping pills and an unopened bottle of whiskey. For the first time, a dark thought crossed my mind. What if I took them both? I shook my head. No, that wasn't the answer. I just needed some time. The next morning I was served again, this time with a restraining order. I wasn't to go within 100 meters of Kelly, Grace, John, or Roger. I had to leave the house by Monday. What struck me, though, was that the order mentioned Roger, too. Why Roger? I muttered. Something clicked in my mind. Damn it, I shouted. In a fit of rage, I sent Roger a text. You bastard, this is all your fault. I'm going to find you and destroy you. No response. Half an hour later, the same detectives arrested me for violating the restraining order by contacting Roger. They didn't want to hear my side. They just wanted to lock me up. They told me a detective car would be parked outside, watching me for the next 24 hours. Back at the house, I was tempted to drink. 3 shots of whiskey later, I took out 3 sheets of paper and started writing letters. To Kelly, I wrote about my anger and disappointment, cursing her betrayal and wishing her a fiery end. To Grace, I poured out my hurt, telling her I never did what I was accused of and that she needed to see the truth. I also asked her not to let Roger walk her down the aisle. My tears stained the paper as I sealed it. To Mira, I apologized, explaining that she wasn't at fault, and told her I suspected Roger was the one who betrayed us both. I expressed regret for any discomfort I may have caused her, and ended by asking if she could ever forgive me. I sealed each letter in envelopes, then grabbed the whiskey and pills. I placed the letters on the bedside table, then added a note to the detectives. Look into Roger's finances if you want the truth. Next time, do your job and stop forcing an innocent man to do this. I walked into the bathroom, taking a long, hot shower. After a few sips of whiskey, I washed down the sleeping pills. Standing in front of the mirror, I wondered why I was doing this. I'd never been like this, but I felt like I had no way out. If the world doesn't want me, I'll leave it, I thought. Later, I was told Detective David Roundlight saved my life. He was keeping watch across the street when our neighbor, Mrs. Hawkins, came over to check on us. When they didn't get an answer at the door, the detective pushed it open and found me on the bedroom floor. An ambulance was called, and the house was turned into a crime scene. This was the first break I had all week. I was barely conscious when they found me. Detective Roundlight and criminologists discovered hidden cameras recording to a hard drive in a linen closet, something I knew nothing about. I was unconscious for 3 days. When I woke up, I was surprised to find myself alive. "Where am I?" I croaked, looking at the nurse. "You're at Hollywood Private Hospital," she replied quietly. She gestured to a chair. "Your friend didn't sleep all night." "Friend?" I asked weakly. "I have no friends. They all left." "Well, this one didn't," she said, turning my head to reveal Mira, sleeping in a chair nearby. "Mira," I said softly, feeling a strange sense of relief. Mira woke up when I spoke and rushed to my side. She took my hand in hers, tears welling in her eyes. "What the hell were you thinking, Bart?" she demanded, her voice shaking with emotion. I turned away, feeling ashamed. "I thought it was the only way out." She shook her head. "You've never given up like this before. What were you thinking?" We were silent for a while. The only sound was the beeping of the machines as she waited for my answer. "I'm sorry, Mira. I'm sorry for everyone. Kelly, you, Grace, I couldn't handle it. No one asked me if I did any of this. I felt cornered. My wife told me to die. My daughter disowned me, and my friend betrayed me. I hurt you and disappointed you." Mira nodded, sitting carefully on the edge of the bed. "I'm sorry too, Bart," she whispered. "I was angry and didn't stop to think that you were innocent." I closed my eyes. "It's okay, Mira." "No, it's not okay," she said, her voice breaking. "You're here because of me too. I don't know if I can forgive myself." I squeezed her hand. "It's okay, Mira, it's okay." We sat in silence until the doctor entered. He smiled as he checked my chart. "Well, Mr. O'Hare, good to see you awake. How are you feeling?" "Alive," I replied. "I didn't expect this." The doctor frowned, and Mira did too. He finished his exam and mentioned that a detective had been asking about me, then left us alone again. I couldn't meet Mira's gaze. "I'm guessing you're here because of my letter?" She shook her head. "I haven't seen it. Detective Roundlight told me about it." She wiped away tears. "My cousin works here, and when he saw your name on the list, he called me. He said they brought you in." I still couldn't look at her. Mira continued, her voice soft. "I was angry, but deep down I knew you didn't do this. After all these years, if you had been capable of something like this, I would have known. But I had to stop and think. If you had done this, I would have seen it. You were set up." Mira paused, then said, "When my cousin Maurice called and told me you were here, I knew. I knew you didn't do those terrible things. I'm so sorry, Bart. Truly sorry." She sobbed, resting her head on my chest. Her tears soaked through my hospital gown. After a few minutes, she pulled back, wiping her face. As she tried to let go of my hand, I held onto it, and she gently wiped my tears away, offering a shy smile. Taking a deep breath, Mira continued. "At first, I couldn't understand how you could do something like that. You loved your job. But when Rogers showed me the signed documents, I was so angry. I tensed at Rogers' name, and she noticed. It was him, wasn't it? Rogers set you up, didn't he?" I nodded. "I think so. I can't prove it, but it looks that way. He never told us about the cost overruns, and he signed documents I never saw. I also think he's having an affair with Kelly." I paused, closing my eyes. Mira's hand was still holding mine. "I'm sorry too, Mira. I never thought Roger or Kelly would hurt you, but all the evidence is against me. I couldn't prove my innocence, so I thought this was the only way out." Before Mira could respond, a voice interrupted. "Well, I know you couldn't," the man said as he entered the room. He was big, fit, and seemed confident. "They did a good job setting you up, but criminals who get away with hundreds of thousands don't act like you. Mr. Different, I'm Detective David Roundlight. I found you with Mrs. Hawkins. Glad to see you're awake," he said with a small smile. I shrugged. "Sorry, Detective, but I'm sure you'll arrest me when I get out of here." Mira squeezed my hand. Roundlight looked at us both. "I've been assigned to your case. I understand it, and there are several things that don't add up. Would you like to be interrogated again?" "I guess so. What do I have to lose?" I replied. Mira interrupted. "Shouldn't he have a lawyer first?" Roundlight sighed. "Yes, he should hire a lawyer. We'll wait until he does." Mira nodded. "I'll take care of it." she said, letting go of my hand for the first time since I woke up. As she left to make the call, Roundlight and I both watched her. Even though she was upset with me, she was still striking, and we both noticed. She likes you, the detective said. She's been my assistant for 10 years. We both had a tough week, so she's protective right now, I replied, with a small laugh. I think it's more than that. Unofficially, I read your letters. She's angry, but she cares about you a lot. And right now, you need people on your side. I raised an eyebrow. Detective, are you sure you want to hear this? He grinned. You're the one being examined, Mr. O'Hare, but I think there's more to your case than the other officers realized. You believe you're innocent, right? Of course I'm innocent. I would never steal from a place I loved working at, I said firmly. The detective nodded just as Mira returned. My second cousin, Reagan Brown, will represent Bart, Mira said as if nothing had happened. Roundlight smiled and handed Mira his card. I know Miss Brown. She's a good lawyer. Have her contact me as soon as she can. After some more conversation, Roundlight left. That was unusual, I said once he was gone. Yeah, the police aren't usually so friendly, Mira agreed. We sat in silence for a moment before I asked, Who's looking after Tilly? She's with my mother, Mira said, pulling out a drawing from her purse. Tilly made this for you. She handed me a folded piece of paper with a drawing of a hospital and an ambulance, showing me in bed with, Get well soon, written in Tilly's handwriting. I wiped away a few tears. Thank you, I said quietly. Have you heard from Grace? I asked. Mira shook her head. I've tried calling, left messages, but nothing, she replied sadly. We talked for about 45 minutes before Mira's second cousin, Reagan, arrived. After introductions, Mira excused herself, leaving me alone with Reagan. Like Mira, Reagan was beautiful, with sandy brown hair. She was obviously related to Mira, though their features were different. She likes you, Reagan said, echoing Detective Roundlight's earlier comment. I chuckled. She's worked for me for years, Reagan smirked. Men, what do you understand? I laughed. I think I have a future ex-wife who's proven I don't have a clue. Reagan's expression softened. Don't worry, I've spoken to Detective Roundlight. Surprisingly, he's on your side. I have some theories, so leave it to me. Your only crime is trusting someone you shouldn't have. She glanced at my bandages. I've heard a lot about you from Mira. She respects you deeply, and she's more devastated by how she treated you than by losing her job. She cares about you. I started to ask a question, but Reagan raised her hand. Don't worry, Bart. I'll represent you for unfair dismissal at your old job. I suspect a lot will fall into place. But for now, I need that divorce petition your ex-wife gave you. What do you want? I darkened. I want as much as I can get, I said quietly. Reagan noticed the anger in my voice. Kelly and Roger mocked you and likely framed you to cover up stealing the company's money. You have the power to destroy them, she said with a wink. Take no prisoners. I liked my new lawyer. Reagan spent more time asking about the events leading to my breakdown, then said she'd contact me in a few days for a formal police interview if nothing else came up. The next few days passed uneventfully. I stayed mostly motionless in bed while doctors and nurses checked on me. Without a phone, I couldn't call anyone, though I doubted anyone would want to talk. The next day, Mira came in with an old paperback, Endymion by Dan Simmons. I laughed when I saw it. I'd read it years ago and loved it. Mira sat next to me, pulling out Pride and Prejudice. What are you doing here? I asked. Foolish man. I'm here to look after you, she said, smiling and shaking her head. We chatted, sharing stories of the past week. She stepped out at lunchtime to bring me a roast beef sandwich with gravy and fried potatoes. Despite everything, I started to feel like myself again. Later that afternoon, just after the doctors removed my IV and told me I'd be discharged the next day if my tests came back clean, I looked at Mira. I don't know where to go, I admitted. I don't even have a phone or wallet. I can't go home. Mira smiled. Reagan got a court order to retrieve some of your things. I managed to get your phone, wallet, clothes, laptop, iPad, and shaving supplies. Mira, I said, stunned. Thank you. Now you can at least find a hotel, she said softly. I looked at her, noticing the worry on her face. What is it? You were right about Roger and Kelly, she said. When we went to get your things, they were there, living together. They didn't expect us. I'm sorry, Bart, I sighed. It's okay, Mira. Well, no, it's not, but thank you for being honest. What happened when they saw you? She smiled mischievously. They started screaming at me to leave until the officer threatened to arrest them for violating the court order. After that, I was allowed to take your things. Mira's voice shook. I was scared for you, Bart. I didn't want to see you hurt again. Promise me you won't do anything like that again, she said, wiping her eyes. I raised my hands. "I promise," I said. The next morning, after getting ready to leave the hospital, Mira was there to pick me up. We walked to her car, and as we drove, I realized we were headed to a series of condos near Kings Park. "Mira, what are we doing here? I can't stay with you," I said. "Of course you can," she replied with a smile. "You don't need to pay for a hotel. You can stay in the guest room for a few days. Plus, Reagan will meet us here this afternoon with updates on your case." Mira's home was a cozy 2-story house, modest but comfortable. It was just her and her daughter, Tilly, and they fit perfectly in the space. Over the years, I knew Mira had a small mortgage left, and despite her appearance, she wasn't into partying. Most of her money went toward taking care of Tilly. Once inside, we unpacked my things, and an hour later, Reagan arrived. After a few brief introductions, she sat down and pulled out some folders. "You're a very lucky man, Bartholomew," she said seriously. I swallowed hard. "Your wife and best friend almost got away with everything. Your bank accounts are frozen, including the one that received the stolen money. That account was opened in your name fraudulently." Mira and I exchanged glances as Reagan continued. "It looks like Roger learned to forge your signature. A couple of months ago, he and your wife opened an account at a bank in your name. I have video proof. I've also petitioned to suspend their passports and sued them for fraud and mental cruelty. They're in serious trouble." Reagan paused. "I have also started legal action against your former company for unfair dismissal. I spoke to Detective Roundlight, and he'll conduct your formal interrogation tomorrow. Just follow my lead, and everything should be fine. Your wife and Roger will be arrested soon." Over the next hour, we signed papers and discussed the details. Reagan assured me all charges against me would be dropped the next day. After she left, I unpacked some clothes and took my toiletries to the bathroom. Mira and I spent the day talking about what might happen next. When Mira went to pick up Tilly from school, I checked my phone for the first time in days. I had several missed calls and texts, mostly from Kelly, calling me pathetic and telling me to sign the divorce papers before I went to jail. There were also missed calls from my former company asking me to return their calls, but no word from Grace. When Mira and Tilly returned, I forgot about my worries. Tilly was excited to tell me about her day at school and how she'd told her friends I'd be staying with them until I was better. Her energy was contagious, and I loved it. While Mira made dinner, Tilly and I worked on her homework and read together. She was a great reader, and I enjoyed every moment with her. After dinner, we all watched some TV, and Tilly insisted I tuck her in. She asked for a hug and said, "I'm so happy you feel better." It nearly broke me, and I had to wipe away my tears before switching places with Mira to say goodnight to Tilly. It had been a long time since I felt that kind of unconditional love. Tilly's care reminded me of how much I had lost with Grace. Afterward, Mira and I sat on the couch holding hands, talking. Later, when we went to bed, she hugged me tightly and reassured me everything would be okay. The next day, we went through the interrogation. Detective Roundlight and Reagan confirmed that all charges against me were dropped immediately after the questioning. The next evening, the news reported that Kelly and Roger were wanted for multiple charges, including fraud and identity theft. They hadn't been found yet. Later, Grace tried calling for the first time, but I sent her to voicemail. I wasn't ready to talk to her. The next day was mixed. Grace called several times and left messages, but I still wasn't interested in speaking to her. She only reached out after I was cleared, and that angered me. She'd abandoned me without a second thought and ignored Mira while I was in the hospital. Now, she wanted to talk about her mother and Roger's guilt, and I couldn't help but think she owed me an apology. That night, I had a nightmare. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. Mira rushed to my side, and even Tilly stood in the doorway, tears in her eyes. I broke down, apologizing over and over. Mira climbed onto the bed, and Tilly snuggled beside me, holding my hand. Mira wrapped her arms around me, offering comfort. "It's okay, Uncle Bart," Tilly said softly. "You just had a bad dream. Mom and I are here. Go to sleep." I tried to rest, but couldn't. Tilly fell asleep with her hand on my stomach, but I felt Mira's gaze on me. "Are you okay, Bart?" she asked gently, holding me close. For a moment, I hesitated. "I don't think so," I replied. "It's just that night. I couldn't finish the sentence. Mira seemed to understand, and she kissed my cheek. "What are we going to do, Bart? This isn't fair. You don't deserve this." I held her close, trying not to wake Tilly. "We'll figure it out. Everything will be fine," I reassured her. That moment brought me back to myself. Mira's concern helped me feel grounded again. I held both Mira and Tilly until morning, when we woke up to a new day. After breakfast, Mira took Tilly to school. I used the time to start looking for a therapist. By the time Mira returned, I'd made a few calls. I explained to her that I was seeking psychological help, Mira smiled, then grew more serious. Bart, can we talk for a minute? She asked, leading me to the sofa. I nodded, thinking I knew what she wanted to discuss. It's okay, Mira, I said. Last night was hard with Tilly here. If I wake up screaming again, I'll find somewhere else. Her eyes widened, and she placed her hands on mine, panic in her expression. No, that's not it at all, she said, taking a deep breath. Actually, it's the opposite. Mira, I don't know how to say this, but I just need... I trailed off, unsure of my words. Suddenly, Mira blurted, I'm in love with you. I froze, shocked. Sorry, I said that wrong. I've been in love with you for a long time, she said, her face turning slightly red. I sat back, still processing her words. Mira looked at me with a mixture of hesitation and hope. When I heard you were in the hospital, I was terrified I wouldn't get there in time, she continued. I wanted to tell you before, but I couldn't. Then, after everything, you came here to stay with me and Tilly. I thought you'd understand without me saying anything. Why now, Mira? I asked, still trying to understand. She laughed softly, though tinged with sadness. Because seeing you hurt last night broke my heart. I just want to be there for you, to help you sleep in my arms and lighten your burden. I can't keep holding back. Her eyes met mine. It was always you, Bart. Haven't you noticed I don't go on dates? I nodded, confused. Yes, but I always thought it was because of Tilly. That's part of it, Mira said hesitantly. But I never found anyone who could compare to you. I tilted my head, still processing. Mira smiled at me. From the moment we started working together, you always treated me like everyone else. Explaining things, being kind, helping others learn from their mistakes. You were always good to Tilly, too, helping with her homework and making her feel special. She never knew her father, but she sees you as a father figure. Look how she climbed into bed with you last night because she knew you were hurting. But, Mira, I started, but she raised her hand to stop me. When everything fell apart last week, you didn't lash out. Even when I slapped you, you didn't treat me badly. Mira blushed. You're an amazing person, Bartholomew. I love you for so many reasons. If Kelly's foolish enough to leave you, I'll give you all the love you deserve. In a month, you won't even remember her name. She kissed me, and I kissed her back, holding her close. Time seemed to stand still. Will you take me, Bart? Will you make me your woman? Mira's voice became soft and seductive. I was stunned. I had fantasized about her, but everything was moving so fast. I knew Kelly and I were done, but Mira's confession made me feel less of a failure. Yet I wondered if it was just a way to console me. Mira seemed to understand my hesitation, but said nothing. She led me to her bedroom, and we made love. Afterward, we slept peacefully. That night, I had another nightmare. I woke up shaking, but not screaming. Mira held me, and I told her about the dream as we dressed. Her worried expression stayed with me as we went to pick up Tilly from school. Over the next couple of weeks, Roger and Kelly were arrested and charged with fraud and identity theft. They tried to flee to Adelaide, but were caught by Australian customs and detained. The police eventually moved them to Perth. During that time, my relationship with Mira deepened. After that first night, I moved into her bedroom, and we grew closer. I felt like I was 20 again, and it was clear I had fallen in love with her. By the time Roger and Kelly were brought back to Perth, I barely remembered Kelly. Mira was right. I didn't want to hold on to those memories anymore. A month later, Mira, Reagan, and I were in court as witnesses against Roger and Kelly. Roger avoided looking at me, even when I was on the stand. He was sentenced to 15 years, while Kelly, who had been an accomplice, got 20 years, plus an additional 5 for mental misuse against me. The judge also granted our divorce. Reagan immediately contested the division of our savings, arguing that Kelly had prepared unfair divorce papers. She suggested selling the house and splitting the proceeds, as I had no intention of staying in it. Reagan also proposed I serve as trustee for Kelly's funds until she finished her sentence, which took some convincing on Reagan's part. This showed I was willing to compromise, helping to avoid unnecessary legal battles. Roger and Kelly were sent to prison immediately. After the ruling, Kelly's lawyer requested an hour with me before she was taken away. I hesitated, but eventually agreed. Kelly, still in her court clothes, was brought into the interview room after the court adjourned. The room was plain but secure, with chains on the chairs. When she sat down, she looked defeated, avoiding my gaze. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. It was the first time we'd been alone together since her betrayal. Sorry, Bart, Kelly said quietly, looking down at her hands. I was surprised that she spoke first, and even more so that her first words were an apology. Are you sure, Kelly? I asked, my voice tinged with bitterness. She met my gaze, tears welling but not falling. Yes, Bart, I'm very sorry, she said. I wanted to reject her apology, but she raised her hand to pause me, so I held my tongue and waited. "Please let me explain, and then you can scold me," she said, sadness in her voice. I leaned back in my chair and gestured for her to continue. "Thank you," she said, looking me in the eyes for the first time. "Believe it or not, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I've loved you for so long and I still do, even after everything. But what's worse is knowing how much you loved me. You were the perfect husband and lover. But one day I woke up feeling lost." She looked away, staring at her hands. "I began to worry because you still loved me. Even though I felt guilty, Roger was working with you. When he noticed something was wrong with me, it didn't take long before we started our affair. He knew exactly what to say, and slowly, he got me into bed. After that, he used my guilt to execute his plan." Kelly paused, wringing her hands. "Roger always felt inferior to you," she continued. "He was jealous of your leadership, and it bothered him. So he came up with a plan to frame you for stealing from the company. We opened a new bank account in your name, drained it, and made sure you were financially ruined. We knew you'd trust me completely, and with you in prison, we thought we could disappear, far away where no one could find us." Her voice shook as she spoke, clearly struggling to accept the reality of what she'd done. "I know," I said, trying to mask the anger in my voice. "None of you cared that you were destroying me in the process." Kelly nodded sadly. "At first, I didn't want to, but Roger wore me down. For our plan to work, you had to be completely broken, without questioning anything. And we almost succeeded," I interrupted. "If it weren't for Detective Roundlight and Mira, you might have gotten away with it." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Kelly asked softly, "Can I see them?" She meant my scars. Slowly, I placed my hands on the table, palms up. Kelly gasped as she looked at my hands, her tears starting to fall. She reached for them, but pulled back. I sat there, expressionless, but inside I felt a mix of anger, shame, and confusion. There was still a small part of me that felt love for her despite everything. But I didn't want to admit it. I must not have hidden my emotions well because Kelly looked at me intensely. "I'm so sorry, Bart. I'm ashamed of what I forced you to do. I'm accepting 20 years without appeal. I deserve it for what I did to you." I nodded, relieved that she was accepting her punishment. She looked at me again. "Bart, you've never been a bad lover. You're amazing compared to Roger. I have no excuse for what I did to you that morning. I was wrong." We sat in silence for a moment before Kelly asked, "So, you and Mira?" "Yes," I replied a little hesitantly. She smiled faintly. "Okay, you know she's loved you for years," Kelly said almost casually. "I found out recently," I answered. Kelly's voice grew soft and bittersweet. "Let her love you, Bart. Let her heal the pain I caused. She's everything I'm not." I didn't know what to say. "Don't worry," she said, wiping away her tears. "I'll be fine. I agreed to your terms. I was surprised you were generous enough to manage my money while I'm in prison. You're a better person than I ever imagined." I sighed. "Kelly, I once loved you more than you'll ever understand. If you'd been honest with me, maybe we could have avoided all of this. But I'm trying to forget what you did to me. I'm still angry, though. I want to scream at you, even hurt you for what you put me through. But I can't. I have to live with it." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, Kelly said quietly, "I'm sorry for what I did to you. You deserved better. And I know I pushed you further than I ever should have. If we're honest, I'll always be ashamed of what happened." "I saw the letter you wrote," she added softly. "You're right. I'll burn for what I did, but I'm thankful you're alive." I clenched my jaw. The feelings were still strong. How could Kelly say all of this now after everything? How could she try to take away the anger I was holding on to? It didn't feel fair. I decided to change the subject. "I offered to take care of your money out of respect for the years we shared. You'll have enough when you get out to start fresh, if that's what you choose," I said, trying to hide my emotions but failing. Kelly saw right through my weak attempt, yet, with a bitter laugh, she went along with the change of subject. "I'll probably be over 60 by then. Hopefully that'll be enough to retire." 60 isn't that old," I said. "Keep yourself in shape, and you'll be strong into your 80s. We chatted a bit longer about how she wanted updates on her funds. It eased some of the tension, but I sensed she was about to change the topic again. "Have you talked to Grace?" she asked, hesitating slightly. I shook my head. "Grace basically told me to get lost, that I was dead to her. She believed all the lies you and your lover fed her." That conversation broke me. I looked at Kelly and she winced when she saw the pain in my eyes. Kelly, she never even asked me if I was guilty. She didn't give herself any reason to doubt. She just tossed me aside, without even looking at me. Right after that, I stood up abruptly, turning away so Kelly wouldn't see me crying. If I had looked at her while I cried, I would have seen Kelly crying too. She knew I couldn't bear to see that. Turning my back to her, I continued. When I was in the hospital, Mira tried to reach out to her, but nothing. Then, like Kelly had earlier, I wiped my face with my sleeve and sat back down, as Kelly tried to wipe the tears from her face. I'm sorry, Bart, Kelly winced. A lot of it was part of a plan Roger and I put together, to my eternal shame. We've set it up so Grace would turn against you. I nodded. Kelly saw the flash of anger in my eyes as she confessed, hanging her head in shame. I could have let the anger build for how she ruined my relationship with my daughter, but Kelly admitted it openly. If it helps at all, Kelly said sadly, Grace cut me out too. I haven't been told off like that since I was a child, but I know I deserve it. Bart, Kelly said suddenly, her tone shifting from sadness to urgency. Our little girl needs you. She's scared, and she's pushing everyone away. Right now, she and John are fighting about everything. You know it's not really about them, right? Kelly said more calmly. I worry about her. It's my fault, but I can't fix it. I know she feels guilty about how she treated you, but not talking to her just makes it worse. I know I have no right to ask this. Kelly hesitated, wringing her hands as she looked at me. But could you find it in yourself to forgive Grace? Our daughter needs at least one parent. I know that even if I hadn't spent all that time in prison, my guilt over what I did to you and turning Grace against you would have eaten me alive. And in the end, she'd still hate me. Kelly snorted. It'll be better. It'll be better if you're the one who takes care of her. If you died, I don't know what she would have done. Please, Bart, take care of our daughter, my ex-wife pleaded with me. Kelly, I took a deep breath, struggling to find the right words. What you're asking is hard. You caused me a lot of pain, but you were my wife, not my blood. When Grace told me she never wanted to see me again, that I was dead to her, remember, not even a day had passed since you told me to die. That hurt more than what you did. I want to get back to her, but the pain, Kelly, the pain of what my family did to me, what our daughter did, it's overwhelming. I don't know how to deal with it. Kelly nodded. I understand, she said softly, knowing I was struggling, but I still had a lot of healing to do. She understood the rejection. She was living through it now. I sighed, looking at my ex-wife. Look, Kelly, no matter how tough it gets, I'm going to try not to hate you. I'm getting help. But even with that, it takes everything I have not to scream at you. And I can't promise anything about Grace, but I'll think about talking to her soon. She looked crushed. Throughout our conversation, Kelly seemed to have aged. There was nothing left to say. She stood up. Bart, I know this doesn't mean much to you right now, but I'll say it again. I'm sorry for everything I did to you. I have no excuse, and I know I can never make it right. I'll do my time, and though I may never earn it, I'll hope one day you can forgive me. Kelly sniffled and looked at me, her age now showing clearly. You may not believe me, but I still love you and always will. I lost sight of it for a while, but I remember now. We stood there, awkwardly silent as Kelly's tears flowed again. She walked to the door and knocked. Prison convoy opened it. She paused and turned to me. Love Mira, Bart. Give her the love I wasted. Live well and always know people care about you. There's always someone who'll help you rise again, even in your darkest moments. I missed it. But I'm proud of you, Bart. You've found yourself again. Goodbye, my beautiful man. I'll never forget you, Kelly said with regret. As she left, I thought about our conversation. There were no screams. Kelly had taken responsibility and accepted her sentence. I stood and noticed small drops of water on the tile floor where she'd walked. I turned away, mourning briefly for the past, then left the room. When I was led out into the public gallery, my mood lifted at the sight of Mira waiting for me. Even on this occasion, my assistant-turned-girlfriend looked stunning, though her outfit still carried a touch of seductiveness. Her blonde hair cascaded down her back as she kissed me. Everything go well? She asked. Yes, I replied. It was surprising. I expected anger and accusations, but she took most of the blame and showed real remorse. What do you think? Mira asked. I paused, still holding her. I'm still angry at Roger and Kelly, but I pity her. She knows she ruined everything and is paying the price. Grace cut her out for it. Mira nodded. John and Grace are here. While you were with Kelly, John told me they'll be at the cafe across the street in a few hours. He knows you're upset and Grace really wants to see you. I took a deep breath and looked at Mira. You think I should talk to her? I asked. She nodded. Yes, my love. There's a pain inside you that only Grace can heal. If you want, I'll go with you. I'll be by your side. She smiled. And if I need to step in, I will. I kissed her. I love you too, Mira. Her eyes widened. It was my first public declaration of love, and though people noticed, I didn't care. We walked hand in hand across the street to the cafe. As we entered, we saw Grace, torn between running away and hugging me. I opened my arms and she ran to me, crying into my shirt. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she whispered over and over. After a few minutes, I gently pulled her back and we sat down. Drinks and food were ordered, and it was time to begin. "I just spoke with your mother," I said quietly. Grace nodded. "I know. Dad, I'm so sorry," she said, straightening up. "I didn't give you a chance to explain. I should have let you talk. I can't blame Roger or Mom for everything. They told me so many lies. But they were convincing. When you called, I said awful things I regret." She glanced at Mira. "Mom, with Roger's help, made me believe you were deceitful. I thought Mira was part of your plan, just seeking attention." She paused. "But it's clear you tried." She couldn't finish, and none of us could speak the unspoken. "Sorry, Gracie," I said. "I was in a bad place and didn't see a way out," I added, and Grace broke down again, burying her face in her hands. Mira melted beside me, both of us overwhelmed. For a few moments, no one spoke. John looked at us and then smiled. "I don't want to downplay this, but I think we should cut Grace some slack and calm down." He gestured toward Mira and me. "Can I assume something good came out of all this?" Grace looked up, her eyes wide. "Dad, you and Mira?" she asked, surprised. "Yes," I nodded. "But it wasn't an affair. As your mom told you, I never cheated. When I woke up in the hospital, Mira was there, refusing to leave. She even believed what your mom and Roger said for a while, but over time, I realized how much she cared about me." Grace looked at us, then regained her composure. "Thank you," she said to Mira. "Thank you for being there for Dad when I was being an idiot." Mira laughed, lightening the mood. Over the next few hours, we talked, sometimes personally, sometimes as a group. At one point, I asked Grace to switch places with Mira so my daughter could hug me. While it didn't heal everything, it marked the start of rebuilding our relationship. Grace even came to counseling with me several times. My therapist helped us work through the trust issues we hadn't resolved since our first meeting in the cafe. One difficult session was when I asked Grace not to cut her mom completely out of her life. Kelly had done a lot of harm, but she was still her mother. Grace agreed to meet her, but only if I went with her. It was a tough meeting with little said, but Grace made an effort. The next week, Kelly wrote to me, admitting she was a fool and apologizing. 6 months later, I proposed to Mira during a family dinner. Tilly and Grace encouraged me, and John gave me a smile and a handshake. Mira later asked Kelly for permission to take on the role of mother of the bride, which Kelly reluctantly granted. Tilly was beautiful as the flower girl and proudly announced she was my second daughter. That day, I stopped being Uncle Bart and became a dad. When I walked Grace down the aisle and gave her to her husband, I felt all the past tensions ease. During our father-daughter dance, she whispered a prayer of thanks. That night, any remaining hesitation I had about Grace disappeared. Grace later sent Kelly photos and a letter thanking her for allowing Mira to stand in for her. I know Kelly keeps them on her phone. After the Roger Kelly case settled, Reagan secured a significant payout for both Mira and me. Clarence initially refused to offer anything, but a week before the court date, he made a low offer, which Reagan rejected. 2 days before the trial, he made another offer, which was again rejected. As a result, Mira received a high 6-figure payout, and I received a 7-figure settlement from the engineering company. The settlement was small compared to what a lawsuit would have cost, but it still impacted Clarence. His income dropped, and he sold the company for a fraction of its value. With the money from our settlements, Mira and I started our own engineering and consulting firm, providing expertise for major projects. 6 months later, we had a team of 5 traveling around the country. One of our first clients was Peter Pembroke. He invited us to dinner and apologized, admitting that the project would have failed without my skills. Every year after, we were invited to their events, even if we weren't working on their projects. Peter was a good guy who had been in a bad situation and wanted to make things right. We sold Mira's small house and bought a much larger one with a stunning view of Kings Park. It was an old house with 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and we spent over 2 years restoring it. Life was good. We celebrated family milestones, including Grace and Tilly's new brother, Byron. Though I still had occasional bad dreams, Mira was always there, my rock, whenever I needed her. More than 10 years later, Byron was no longer the precocious 10-year-old he once was. Tilly, following in Aunt Reagan's footsteps, was studying law at university. It was a lazy Saturday afternoon when Grace casually mentioned her mother. "Dad, I got a letter from Mom this week," Grace said, carefully but calmly. Kelly wasn't a taboo topic, but everyone spoke cautiously around her. Over the years, I had received letters from Kelly and even visited her in prison. She was still serving her sentence, but had earned respect as a model prisoner. What did she write? I asked. She mentioned that Roger was released last month, Grace replied, as everything quieted down. Was I drinking Kraken and Coke last month? I asked, concerned. Mira placed her hand over mine. Did she say anything else? She asked. Grace nodded. Mom said Roger came to see her. She said he looked bad and wasn't at peace. It wasn't a calm conversation. I'll visit her next week to get more details. We discussed it briefly before I excused myself and called David Roundlight, now a close friend. He led a team investigating major crimes and often solved complex cases. Bart, how's everything? How's Mira? He asked cheerfully when he picked up. Mira's great, I replied, then hesitated. David, I just found out Roger's been released. I could sense David's mood shift. Yes, I got the report yesterday. I was going to tell you at the bowling alley next week, he said. From the report, it seems Rogers moved to Adelaide and got a job there. The committee asked him about you, and he said you could rot in hell, but he knew he had to leave because of his record. I sighed. Peter said life in prison was tough for him. I don't think we'll have any problems with him. Thanks, Bart, David replied. But that's what worries me. I'll let you know if I hear anything, I said, exhaling a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. We talked briefly about bowling and an upcoming barbecue. When I returned to the table, Mira looked at me. David? She asked. I nodded. He confirmed Roger's release and moved to Adelaide, but he still hates me. I think the feeling's mutual, I told the family. The rest of the day was quiet, but being with my family helped me feel supported. That night I woke up sweating and screaming from a nightmare, the first I'd had in years. Mira immediately woke up, concerned. Without asking, she called my therapist, who kindly answered at 2 a.m. That's why we pay him so much, I joked as Mira held me tightly. While it upset her, just saying it helped me feel better. My therapist explained that the dream was likely triggered by the news of Roger's release, bringing back old anxiety. We agreed to meet again, and I thanked him for taking my call so early. Once we were settled, Mira checked on Byron, who was still sleeping. Tilly woke up, went back to bed, and asked her mother to tell me she loved me. After using the bathroom, I lay back down, and Mira cuddled against me. Do you really think there will be problems with Roger? She asked. I don't know, I replied. I think he'll disappear, and we won't hear from him. And even if we do, we have protection. I nodded toward our hunting gear safely stored in the closet. Mira nodded back. I'm sorry hearing this upset you. Are you okay? She asked. Sort of, I answered. I think there will always be a shadow over me. I don't dwell on those times anymore, but it's part of who I am. I hug the woman I love so much. But when I think about it, I fixate on the beautiful blonde who saved my life. Mira lifted her head and looked at me. I'm serious, I said. I felt so helpless back then. I thought the only way out was to end it all. I could have done it again if you hadn't been there when I woke up. I realized that ignoring the past wouldn't help. The best I could do was surround myself with the people I love, focusing on what I'm grateful for and talking to them when I need to, so I don't slip back into that dark place. Mira nodded. I love you, Bart, she said. I love you too, Mira, I replied. With those words, we fell asleep. Life wasn't perfect. There were disagreements and nightmares, but through it all, I had the love of a woman who made everything possible, friends who accepted me, and a family that stood by me through life's storms.